welcome back to Wicked Art. It is Wicked here, and this week we have a little bit of a collaboration going on. I'm teaming up with Team 638's racing team um, to talk about the JZilla Track Days and the JDM versus EDM, kind of a Japan versus Germany race event that's going on the 15th of this month, which is this weekend. Um, So I'll leave a link in the description of their page and stuff so you can see the other parts of this collaboration. And also some information based on the race too if you wanted to check it out. So basically we're doing a Japan versus Germany thing here. And so he approached me with the idea of letting his son do the Japanese side with some Japanese inspired characters. And then I would do the German side with some characters from Germany from the Marvel Universe. So we decided on doing Magneto and then my personal favorite, Nightcrawler, as well as Maverick too, who were all from Germany themselves. So as you can see, he just gave me the hood and I brought it over to the house, and I'm just using a regular pencil on here. He had a real nice surface to be able to draw on here and using the reflection of the sunlight. So first thing I did was I drew this on the computer first, just so that I could get all the shadows and stuff based out in there, and then I went ahead and I printed that off. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I am just really trying to focus on not just redrawing the character, but really getting in those shapes for the shadows on there, which was very challenging and kind of had some times where I messed up trying to make sure that I get the right shapes in place. It's kind of like working with positive and negative space. The shadows really being those positive spaces, they were going to get filled in. The negative space would have just been the colors added on top. Um, Originally, I had the idea of just maybe stenciling this out and just airbrushing it on there with like some spray paint or something along those lines. And then I thought, well, let's just be fair. His son's only going to be using paint markers, so that's all I'm going to be using as well. But as you can see, I started with Magneto first. And in the original image, I had much more of the body. It probably went down to his thighs a little bit. And then Nightcrawler, of course, full body picture, and the same with Maverick. But I found out that I had to make a choice. If I really wanted people to be able to see this artwork, so I wanted to be able to have those details and things visible. So I made a decision to just go ahead and maybe cut down a little bit more so I could draw larger, and so it would be visible more from a distance. And I had these really cool ideas to show Magneto's electromagnetism. So I wanted to be able to draw in those lightning bolts and things like that. So as you can see, I just finished up with Magneto. And so next I wanted to move on to my second favorite character of all time next to Spider-Man is Nightcrawler. Has the ability to teleport and super agile and flexible, just like Spider-Man is. So basically, take Spider-Man, turn him into a demon, and give him the ability to teleport without using the web um, shooters. You're essentially getting the same. So that's kind of why I like him. He's a real good character, and I was real fortunate that his character is from Germany because it gave me opportunity and the excuse to draw him. So as you can see, I decided to start with the head first. Not really sure what I was thinking. I probably should have planned it a little bit better, but I ended up making the head a little bit too big for his body, and you might or might not notice that later on in the video. But again, I'm just using the same process, just basic pencil, and just really knocking out those shapes and trying to make sure that I can get those shadows in there so I'm able to incorporate that. Um, Overall, the surface on metal, it was good that he had the black spray painted coat on there, so this would have shown up. Because had this been, straight up metal metallic, it would have been a little bit harder to see this. Um, Again, you just really have to, go in there and take your time. So, a little caveat is if you're ever wanting to do something like this and you have more time to plan something out, you want to use a method that's called grid drawing, which we'll get into something like that later on down the line. but you really just want to be able to uh, make sure you get it one for one. This is how Da Vinci and all those famous artists back in the day, they didn't have a way to project their images on, so you can just draw grid lines on your paper and get those measurements for the thing that you're working on. So, for instance, for the car hood, I could have easily just drawn a grid and put that on there. But again, because I made the adjustment to make things bigger, I kind of had to go without it. But what it allows you to do is it makes these little squares, and you can just go in there and go one for one square at a time, and it will transfer that image onto the larger surface for whatever your process or project is going to be. Okay, so as you can see, I'm starting to work down here towards his legs, and I started noticing that I am getting a little bit far down in to the picture, and I'm really going to be taken away from Maverick. So around this time, I was like, I'll just take this and just go ahead and make his pose a little bit more dynamic, as well as, those legs were originally drawn. I had them straight out, like they were kicking straight forward. And so I wanted to make sure I didn't cross over into his son's space onto the car. So what I did was I just bent the leg down, so I made another alteration there. And then as you can see now, I'm trying to fit the hand onto the hood as well, and we're kind of running into the vent on the side, and so I decided to just cut it off right there, since the main focus would be on the characters' faces and things like that. And so what I wanted to do to kind of show that separation between him and Magneto, I just put that on there. So I forgot to record when I got a little bit into it, just really trying to push to get this done for him. So I drew Maverick already on the bottom. So what I decided to do was just go ahead, now that everything was drawn, was take the black paint marker, just like you would do like drawing your comic books. You want to get that line work in first. So I'm just taking the black paint marker right now. And I'm just going around the image and really trying to darken it up. And then basically turn it into a coloring book, just get everything outlined and get in there. So I really am focusing on tracing and drawing everything. So as you can see, you're going to be able to start seeing them more. The real good thing was the black was a little bit darker, so it popped out more off of the hood, even though the hood already had a black coat. Because it was a little bit more faded, there was no real issue of, fading, getting the lines to show up on there. So as you can see, I'm really just going over those shadow shapes so I can see them physically. Because when you get in there, what you don't want to have happen is you accidentally color something black that you don't want to end up black, and then you got the less color to go over it. So as I'm working my way down, you can see I'm kind of going over Nightcrawler's shoulders and stuff. And again, because I forgot to record it, what you can't see in there is those lines I'm doing right now are the teleportation cloud, the poof that happens when Nightcrawler teleports. So I'm going around the tail and stuff. So I added that in there too, which you'll see a little bit later. So again, I'm just really, really trying to focus on getting the outline of everything and making sure that everything's set up for me to start filling in the shadows. So I'm working down towards his legs now. You can see a little bit of Maverick down there towards the bottom, which I did get some video of me doing it, his colors and stuff later. But again, it was just, by the time every time I got down to Maverick, I was just getting so like, oh, I gotta get this done, and then I forget to record. So you don't really get to see a lot of the drawing process for Maverick. So as you can see, like I'm already going back in on Magneto, and I'm filling in those shadows with the paint marker. So now with paint markers, the thing you need to know is they're a real good use for metal and wood. So I'm just going in there and just literally just using it like brush strokes. I wanted to give it that kind of graffiti look. So I didn't like, if you don't want those heavy streaks on there with gaps and space and scratchiness, use it like a paintbrush. Just kind of paint back and just go one direction and try to keep all your strokes in one direction. And eventually you'll fill it in. And for some reason the black, and the white for that matter, didn't really flow as good as some of the other colors. So you really had to work over it to get it a nice solid color, and that was, a struggle in itself. But I mean, it worked out good for the end, especially once you add the color in there. Um, so I would just say a tip for, the black and stuff is, always remember with these markers, they have a push factor. So on the tip, you can kind of push it in, and what that does is it starts pumping the paint down onto the marker. So I always want to reload that. So you can see Maverick finally a little bit down there at the bottom. So I had to cut him off a lot. And my bias towards loving Nightcrawler, that's why he got the full body shot in there. I'm not going to lie. He was going to be my center stage focus on this whole thing, just because I just have a passion for him. One thing you have to understand too with these markers is you really gonna have to plan ahead. Color wise, there's not a whole lot of selection when it comes to things like skin tones, varied colors like you get with Copic marker where you can get light green, dark green, brown. You really just got to treat it like real paint. But from the standpoint, you can't really mix the colors because you don't want to ruin the marker. So as you can see, I finally started finishing up the shadows. And I finally got down there towards Maverick. Now he's got a lot of metal and silver armor plating on him, so really had to go heavy on the shadows. And that way it would bring out more of that reflectiveness too onto the metal up there. Um, and as good as you can see up there in the top left, I got my reference image that I do on the computer sitting right there, so I can make sure my shadows are spot on and look good. Um, so I'm really just filling that in, really starting to work that. Once I get done with that, once you have all those black lines, a solid foundation, and it's just like a coloring book. So as you can see from top to bottom, everything's complete. Now I can move on to color and start filling in just like a coloring book. So again, I kind of got into it. Didn't really get to show you too much of me starting with Magneto. What I like to do is I like to stick with one color at a time. You could just go all over the place. Like I could have sat there and just did Magneto, but by doing it this way, I'm allowing myself to give the paint a chance to dry. Right? So if I did need to put something close by, I'm gonna do like all my reds first, right? So go ahead and knock out all my reds. And as you can see, I was like, okay, well now let's go back to Magneto. Now that red paint is dry, let's go back and use that lavender purple color. Really get in on the outfit and the costume design. Um, and then a little tip too is like you can see I have the purple lightning bolts back there, but it doesn't look like much. Well, always use your whites last. Okay, so what that allowed me to do was when I went in there with the white over the middle of the lightning bolt, what that allowed me to do was to squeeze in and make it look like it had this cool glow effect so it really stands out. Now here's one of the issues where I run into. Nightcrawler's got a black and red outfit. Well, if I did everything black, you wouldn't see anything. So I kind of found this metallic blue. Um, it didn't really dry as dark as I wanted it to, but that's okay. I mean, you kind of work with what you get, and I think people appreciate it anyway. So I tried to get it to this dark blue because he has blue fur. So as you can see on the face, I chose normal, just blue color, and then use this metallic blue to kind of contrast against that color. So even though it's kind of popping it out a little bit more and being a little bit more shiny, that's the route I decided to go with that. Okay, so I finally made my way down to Maverick and really worked in, that gold. Found a nice silver in there, um, and I just started really filling them in. Eventually, I made it to a point where I started doing the highlights and really trying to push that metal. Um, so as you can see, you can't really see any white on there yet, but like I said, you want to save those for last. So I had a lot of fun on this one. I really hope you kind of get a cool idea what that project is. Remember, please go over and check out my friends over at Team 638. I'm going to keep up with his racing season this year. And if you want to check out the final project, again, go leave a link in the description for you. You can go find his page and see the finished final project. The part that I'm showing you here at the end is just, there's still a few little touch-ups to do, but this is as far as I made it on my half. So again, go check out my friends at Team 638, and I hope you enjoyed seeing this cool process as much as I enjoyed working on it. And again, I want to thank my friends over at Team 638, and I can't wait for you guys to see the final finished product on their end. Alright, so until next time, keep sketching. have fun, and I will see you in the next one.